Good evening, everybody. Today we have two saints according to the today is the 16th of November. I am, of course, Rita Lazar. Welcome to Voice of British Orthodoxy. Our first entry for today is Saint Elfric, and he is from the 10th century. There has been a certain amount of confusion about the life of Saint Elfric. 13th century Benedictine monk and English chronicler Matthew Paris, in his edition of the Gesta Abbatum Monasteri Sancti Albani, Deeds of the Abbots of St. Albans Monastery, transposes the names of St. Elfric and St. Leofric in the heading to the sections on their respective abbacies. In addition, until the work of German theologian Eduard Dietrich and English Roman Catholic priest and historian John Lingard. At the end of the 19th century, the lives of Saint Elfric and Elfric of Eynsham, also known as Elfric the Grammarian, was inextricably intertwined. Although Elfric of Eynsham was never consecrated to the episcopate nor glorified, he was often identified as the one who had been the Archbishop of Canterbury. Saint Elfric was also associated, albeit incorrectly, with the valorous attempts to save the relics of St. Alban, who were commemorated back on the 20th of June, from pillaging pagans. There is also a later tradition that St. Elfric consecrated a bishop of Llanafan and two bishops of St. David's, both in Wales, which is highly unlikely as Wales has never been within the jurisdiction of Canterbury. It is possible that St. Elfric commenced his monastic life at Abington Abbey in his early years and is referenced to as Elfric of Abingdon by some sources. In addition, the Historia Ecclesiae Abingdonensis, History of the Church of Abingdon, lists St. Elfric as an abbot. However, he is not mentioned in the actual abbatial lists. It is known that St. Elfric served as the first abbot, C.969 to C.995 of St. Albans following his rebuilding at the instigation of King Offa II of Mercia. Initially, the abbatial acts of St. Elfric and his brother and successor St. Leofric were modelled by Paris's transposition. Even though Leofric's succession can be firmly dated as no earlier than C.995, Paris never realised his error, and his attempts at reconciling the inconsistencies between the written record and his personal knowledge only serve to further confuse things. For instance, Paris wrote that Leofric was initially selected for elevation to the Archbishopric of Canterbury, but declined, as he felt St. Elfric was worthier, an account which is generally considered by historians to be baseless. I'm going to quickly bring up his thingy entry. much shorter. Right, following St. Elfric's consecration as the third Bishop of Ramsbury, C.992, it appears that he retained the abbotship of St. Albans for several years, before his brother Leofric succeeded him sometime after 995. When St. Elfric was translated to the See of Canterbury as the 29th Archbishop in 995, he remained Bishop of Ramsbury until his repose. St. Elfric's proposed translation to Canterbury created a great deal of anxiety among the chapter's secular, it says in brackets, clerics, who rapidly dispatched two of their members to Rome in the hopes of Pope Gregory V consecrating one of them Archbishop rather than St. Elfric. However, the Pope would only confirm a candidate who had royal approval, which obviously neither of the chapter's clerics had, and so when St. Elfric arrived in Rome, 997, the Pope confirmed his translation and conferred the pallium on St. Elfric. According to some sources, St. Elfric began replacing the secular clergy of Canterbury Cathedral Church and chapter with monastic ones, ostensibly at the command of the Pope. However, since the earliest record of this dates to shortly after the Norman conquest and its source is Canterbury's own monastic historians, the veracity of this information is questionable. Whilst Archbishop St. Elfric commissioned the first life of St. Dunstan, and was at least on one occasion ordered by King Alfred to adjudicate a case between local nobles. A letter was sent to Wulfsige Bishop of Sherborne, by either Elfric or his predecessor, Sigeric the Serious, reminding Wulfsige of the duties of bishops, especially to protect the churches in their see from being ransacked, and to encourage the laity to always endeavour for justice in all their dealings, help widows and orphans, and not to fight, amongst other moral principles. St. Elfric reposed 16th of November, 1005, and shortly afterwards was popularly acclaimed a saint. St. Elfric was initially buried at Abingdon Abbey. However, during the reign of Knut, 1016 to 35, his relics were translated to Canterbury. His entry in the group chat is St. Elfric of Abingdon, also known as Alfric. Monk and Abbot of Abingdon, later Bishop of Walton, and 29th Archbishop of Canterbury in 995. And then in brackets it says 1005 AD. He is said to have ruled his church in the most religious manner during 11 years, which the incursions of the Danes contributed to make a most difficult time. After that he called to the reward of his labours, and buried in his cathedral church, being counted as one of many saints whom God had granted to the metropolitan see. Tomorrow, forgive me, our next saint is Saint Afan, and he has a little bit of a longer entry in here, well, on this, but Saint Afan was and he's from the 6th century. Saint Afan was a Welsh saint who is believed to be a grandson of Caneda Wledig, king of Gwynedd, which would make him a cousin of St. David, who we commemorate back on the 1st of March as well. Baringold states that he lived in the early part of the 6th century. St. Afan was the founder of the parish church, now called St. Afan's, Llanafan. Then there's a Y, and then Trawsgoed, in the village of Llanafan, near Aberystwyth, in Ceredigion, Wales. This church was at one time apparently a site of pilgrimages, and according to legend, the site of at least one miracle, which an anonymous writer records as follows. The Anglo-Norman Lord Philip de Brouwer, second Lord of Bramber, C. 1070 to C. 1134, close brackets, was hunting nearby and decided that the church was a too suitable place for him and his dogs to spend the night. When he woke at sunrise, his dogs had gone mad and he was blind. His sight was only restored when he resolved to fight in the Crusades. I tried to put on a bit of an accent so that you know that was the anonymous writer. In speech thing, the journey through Wales and the description of Wales from 1188, Gerald of Wales relates the same story as follows. At this point, I must tell you what happened in the reign of Henry I, C. 1068 to the 1st of December 1135, King of the English, to the Castellan of Radnor Castle, in the territory of Bullif, which is not far away, being adjacent to his own lands, which he himself conquered. He had gone into the church of St. Afan, called Llanafan in Welsh, and there he had spent the night with his dogs, which was a foolish and irreverent thing to do. He got up at first light, as hunters are wont to do, but he found that all his dogs had gone mad, and that he himself was blind. He had lost his sight completely, and he had to grope his way out with his hand. He goes on to say that the nobleman never regained his sight, but fought in the Crusades blind, and was, quote, immediately struck down by a blow from a sword, and so ended his life with honour, end of quote. There is some debate as to whether St. Afan was a bishop of or not. Baringold quotes an unnamed source as saying that, quote, "It is not improbable that he was the third bishop of Llanafan, and his churches are situated in the district which may be assigned to that diocese, whilst others suppose that there was once a see of Llanafan, then space, Fawr, and that St. Afan was its bishop, though it's improbable. A good deal of this superstition is based upon the inscription on this apparent tomb at Llanafan, Fawr, which reads, Hic, in quotes, Hic lasset Sanctus Avans Episcopus. Here lies, and then that translates to, here lies the holy Bishop Afan, forgive me. However, the lettering in his Lombardic script, and that combined with the overall design, date the tomb as being from the end of the 13th or the 14th century. The exact year of St. Afan's repose is unknown, other than it was during the 6th century. He does have a Troparion, which is sung in the first tone, or first mode. Llanafan remembers thee, O Hierarch Afan, thou teacher of piety, pastor, guide, and inspirer of men's hearts. Wherefore, O Holy One, entreat Christ our God that he will grant great mercy to our souls. May the and also the group chat entry, before I do forget, is Saint Afan, a bishop who gave his name to the church of Llanafan in Powys in Wales, and then in brackets 6th century. May they both intercede for us before the righteous judge. Tomorrow is St. Hilda's Day, but at the time of uploading this, the cursed root icon is coming to St. Lazar's, so the video about St. Hilda, who does seem to be the only saint that's actually commemorated tomorrow, will basically, it will be delayed. We might have to do a double upload on Monday. But I also might be home, which might give me a few hours to record tomorrow's episode, but I can't really make any... Oh, I did not want to do that. Anyway, I can't really make any promises, so if it works out, it works out. If not, double upload Monday. Anyway, I've been Red Lazar. God bless you all, and Amen.